The NHL's free agency period opened yesterday, and it wasn't supposed to be all that entertaining from the local franchise's standpoint, but where they didn't necessarily get a ton of quality, they sure did quantity. Good morning to you. Good Tuesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports, and this is Daily Shot of Penguins. It comes your way bright and early every weekday if you're into football and or baseball. I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates, the other two teams in town that I cover. Matt Grzelcyk, Anthony Beauvillier, Blake Lizotte were signed from the outside. Emil Bemstrom was brought back. Ryan Shea was brought back. And, Riley Smith got traded. I almost feel like I should do the whole episode on Smith getting traded. He went to the Rangers for a couple of draft picks. I don't care what those draft picks were. Honestly, I don't care that he stayed in the Metro Division. In fact, I think that'll end up being a big positive for the Penguins in their home opener next season, which will be on October 9th. Happens to be my birthday. At PPG Paints Arena, they can manufacture a tribute video for him, even though he wasn't part of a Stanley Cup championship, just to remember all the great times, all the highlights, all those 7-week spans of not scoring a goal or not really doing anything. But I digress, because the team is being built. I'm not going to use rebuild. There's no way you can have a rebuild. Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, Erik Karlsson, Chris Letang. What you have to do, and I'm going to continue laying it on thick here for Kyle Dubas, because I believe this GM has figured this out and has begun acting on it, is just build. Here's how he put it upon meeting with reporters yesterday in Cranberry.
We're not looking to simply squeak into the playoffs. It's to return the team to become a contender as soon as possible. Can we do that this season? Can we do that next season? It's hard to put a time frame on it, but this is obviously not a strip it down to the studs situation here. The people in the room are too good for that.
Well, yeah, I've been ranting about this for more than a year, but what's needed to happen all along was that this team needed to get younger so that it can contend, not despite contention. If they're younger, if there's more fresh legs in the equation, they're going to be a better hockey team. They're certainly going to be a better supporting cast. That's why all those months ago I was flipping out over Noel Acciari and Matt Nieto and whoever else was coming in, everybody except Lars Eller, of course, when what they needed was a bunch of energizers. Well, now, look, there's too many bottom sixers to count. Dubas has loaded up the quantity component of that bottom six to the point that right now I feel like you could make out a sixth and a seventh line if there was an opener tomorrow. And that's fine, because competition is good. Competition doesn't hurt you. You bring in a bunch of guys knocking each other around in training camp for jobs, you've got yourself a very, very different environment than the one that we saw throughout the 2023-24 NHL season. What you saw then for the better part of 5 months, I won't say 6 because they gave it all they had in the 6th, was guys like Riley Smith who knew they had jobs. They just knew nobody was going to take them out of the lineup. There was some of that in Rickard Rakell's game. And what remains mind-blowing to me is that there was some of that in the games of fringe guys. Why? Because they had no push. There was nobody, Wilkes-Barre Scranton, who was going to be threatening them. So line them all up out there and let them go at it. Heck, think about adding more, This episode is brought to you by Bet Online, your number one source for all your summer sports needs this season, from Major League Baseball, golf, NHL, NBA playoffs. Get the latest odds and lines, including all team matchups, player props, odds on just about everything that's out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Bet Online, where the game starts. As I see it right now, your top two lines on this team have Drew O'Connor on the left wing with Sid, with Brian Rust. Michael Bunting showed something alongside Gino, and you could have Raquel on that right side. Or you could, keep looking and see what else is out there for a top six scenario. And then there's just a ton after that. It's crazy. Kevin Hayes, Anthony Beauvillier, Jesse Puljujarvi, Valtteri Puustinen, Lars Eller, Matt Nieto, Blake Lizotte, Nola Chari, Sam Poulin. I'm probably missing some. Jonathan Gruden. Lots and lots of guys. And by the way, if there's a commonality with all of these acquisitions, with the exception of Hayes, they're younger. And that's reinforcing the point that I'd been making for months, which is they don't have to be 22, 23 years old to be considered young, because you're not getting them for their future potential. You're getting them for their legs. You're getting them for their energy. If you're 25, 26 years old, you're going to be able to contribute more from the energy standpoint than someone who's 5 years older. Lizotte, and he's somebody I'm going to spend an entire episode on this week. Lizotte he's one of those drag you into the fight kind of forwards, the way Jason Zucker was. You will notice him when he's out there. That's what was needed. And I understand Dubas was in his first year, and I understand Ron Hextall left him a mess and play the violin while I'm talking. But I thought all of that was evident last summer. And right now, I'm just glad that it's coming around. But I'm even more glad that Dubas has taken the approach of saying, listen, we're still in this to win. He acknowledged yesterday freely and, I thought impressively, that he's constantly communicating with Sid. Sid's there. Sid's up there in Cranberry skating. Dubas doesn't have to go very far. They're probably running into each other 5-6 times a day. And he's letting them know, hey, we respect the fact that we're in a negotiation. We respect that you could, if you wanted to, go play somewhere else. We'd rather that doesn't happen. Here's our end of it. All those times that the team looked so lethargic or out of it or out of gas or whatever the heck was wrong with them for 5 months this past season, we're taking steps to address that. You and Gino and the other scorers on this team, you take care of your end, score on the power play, and we'll get you the energy. We'll get you the competition. We'll get you the stuff that was missing. I like it. When we come back, J1Q. Today's J1Q comes from TB, who says, DK, I like a lot of the signings that Kyle Dubas made. Without a doubt, depth is one of the most important factors in building a successful hockey team. However, with all these additions, and Dubas even saying out loud that the Kevin Hayes acquisition would make it likely that Nola Chari can now move to wing, does that leave Jesse Puljujarvi or maybe even Valtteri Puustinen without a seat when the music stops? Not to mention Sam Poulin, who I'm hoping truly gets a shot in the NHL lineup. This is going to sound insensitive, and I don't care. And take that from somebody who really likes a couple of these kids. Like, I'd love to see Puustinen succeed, but I'd also like to see Puustinen get pushed. If you think about the way in which he came up, this team wasn't getting any scoring. He was the trigger guy from the left circle on the power play in Wilkes-Barre, and they needed anybody, to try to get something going. And he did, to his credit. You'll recall he was just doing things a little bit differently than the rest of them, and that was just enough to get them moving. But I'll tell you the same thing that I tell him all the time. It's kind of a running joke. Shoot the hockey puck. Shoot the hockey puck. He's blessed with a ridiculous release. He really is. And I'm not just talking about that one-timer. I'm talking more about any spot on the rink. He has the ability to just snap it off, and it goes. Doesn't need a wind-up, doesn't need to look over anything. No double clutch. It just goes. But that's only when he decides to shoot the hockey puck. That's got to change. Something's got to impress that upon him. Puljujarvi obviously has to show that he can sustain his good fortune in his recovery from a really challenging injury. But on top of that, he's got to be more responsible and more aware defensively. And Poulin, look, we've been talking about him for 5 years. Various things have arisen in that time. But to me, the number one, and I don't hear this from the Penguins, by the way, so I don't want you to think that this is something that I've picked up on as a team sentiment. This is from me. I don't know who he is. I don't know what he is as a hockey player. What's his profile? What's the ambition for him? Is he a top 6 guy? Is he a bottom 6 guy? If he's a bottom 6 guy, there's a lot missing there. If he's a top 6 guy, there's a lot missing there. Maybe the solution to that, before it's too late, is to have him isolate on one or the other, or have the development staff or the coaching staff isolate on one or the other and say, hey, Sam, if you're going to make it, you're going to make it as this. The opportunity is there. I mean, that's the best answer I can give you. For all of these guys, the opportunity is there. Just rise up, get it done. Outperform other people. It's not about blocking anybody. I'll remind everyone into eternity that John Marino showed up in training camp a handful of years ago. No one knew anything about him. No one expected anything of him. And you knew a week into camp he was going to be starting the season with the team without ever spending a blessed day in the minor leagues. It's okay to do that too. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everyone listening to Daily Shot of Penguins, and we're going to do another one of these tomorrow, maybe on Lazat.